Assault rifles in Fortnite are arguably the most popular weapon class, and over the 7 years of the game's history, we have seen such a wide variety of assault rifles. And with such a wide variety of items, we see some bad and some good, and today we're going to focus on some of the worst assault rifles in the history of the game. These are the assault rifles that you couldn't pay me money to pick up, and I'm glad that most of these are never coming back to Fortnite. Hopefully. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to like and let me know in the comment section below. Use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop if you would like to support the work that I do here on YouTube, and let's just get right into this. Before we start, I have to give one honorable mention, and that is the pre-buff infantry rifle. When this thing came out, particularly the common through blue version, was not hit scan, and this was just an awful assault rifle. I've seen this in my comments when I put up a community post about some of the worst assault rifles of all time, and I agree, but after it got buffed and fixed and made hit scan, it is actually a really solid assault rifle, and it will not be on this list. Alright, we gotta start off with the most obvious and absolutely the worst assault rifle of all time. That's the makeshift assault rifle from Chapter 2 Season 6. Look, you guys know, if you watch my videos, I do not like the Chapter 2 Season 6 weapons, and the makeshift unfortunately got done dirty, because if you remember, makeshift weapons were supposed to be bad. They were supposed to be your bad weapon, and then you would get the parts and you would upgrade to better weapons. But this thing was awful, and you can mainly attribute that specifically to the bloom. I mean, you had no idea where your bullets were going. If you aimed at somebody from assault rifle range, you had no idea where your bullets were going. You were never going to hit any shots. The primal assault rifle was much better, as of course it was designed to be, so I can't rip the makeshift too much. I know it was designed to be bad. Like, it literally was designed to be a bad weapon. Just poor everything. It just did everything around the board poorly. There are no surprises here, but yeah, the makeshift is the worst AR of all time. Next, let's talk about the thermal scoped assault rifle introduced in Chapter 1. Look, scoped assault rifles are kind of a tricky thing to kind of balance in Fortnite, right? Because if you're just going to use a scoped AR, at that point you might as well just use a sniper, right? Or just use a DMR. So to me, the scoped ARs just kind of fall into a weird category. That being said, I think the thermal scoped is one of the worst. And there are two things that really kill this weapon. It's not the damage. The damage is good. You're doing scar-like damage. It's really the hip fire, which, okay, yes, you can argue with a scoped weapon, you're not expecting the hip fire to be good, but look at other assault rifles. Look at the MK, look at the regular just base assault rifle, all have great hip fires. The thermal scoped really has terrible hip fire, and the fire rate is just painfully slow, like just awful. And in such a fast-paced game like Fortnite, you really can't afford to have a terribly slow fire rate like that. Also, if I remember correctly, I believe this weapon had a ton of recoil. Again, it was just straight up to the sky, but still, I believe it had a lot of kick per shot. Look, I just wasn't a fan of the thermal scoped. I know there is a little community of people that love this weapon. Look, it sounds cool, it does good damage, but other than that, I really think that's all it's got going for it. Next, let's talk about the Enforcer AR introduced in Chapter 5, and I have a feeling this is going to upset some people, but just hear me out. I remember Zemi saying in one of his videos, this is the right weapon, wrong meta, and that couldn't be more true. I don't think the Enforcer AR is a terrible weapon. I mean, I think it's bad, but I don't think it's terrible. I just think it was in the wrong season. There are a couple things that kill this weapon. One, the Reaper sniper rifle. I don't care if it's post-nerf, pre-nerf, whatever. The Reaper sniper rifle is still an extremely strong sniper rifle and basically just does everything you need from the Enforcer AR. The Enforcer AR is really a DMR, let's be honest. It shouldn't even be considered an assault rifle. It should be considered a DMR. And with such a slow fire rate for the Enforcer, you're going to have to peek for longer, of course, making yourself more vulnerable to get sniped by one of the best snipers we've ever seen. As well as this, I just think the Striker AR was better. I honestly just think the Striker AR is the better option over the Enforcer AR for that season, and so I think the Enforcer got a little bit overshadowed. If this weapon was more considered a DMR and categorized as that, then I think we would look at it a little differently, but when you put it in such a broad category of assault rifles where there's so many strong ones, the Enforcer really lacks. Look, it does great damage, there's no complaints there, but I'm just looking at it for its base weapon. Of course, in Chapter 5, I keep mentioning this, but you have to kind of look at the weapons differently and look at them without their attachments, because there are so many assault rifles in Chapters 1 through 4 that if they had attachments would be so much better, so it's kind of unfair to categorize the Enforcer with attachments versus weapons that didn't get the chance to have attachments. And I think the Enforcer AR really lacks. It was my least favorite. I would even take the Nemesis, and I'm a Nemesis hater, and I would rather take the Nemesis over the Enforcer. I just wasn't a fan, and I know a lot of people aren't as well, so here it is on this list. And this is actually probably going to be one of the more controversial takes of this video. I'm going to go with the Warforged assault rifle introduced in Chapter 5 Season 2. Look, I'm waiting for the skin skill issue comments to come in here, but the recoil on this thing is really insane. And forget about Ares Warforged assault rifle. We're not talking about the mythics here, just the base version common through legendary. I think if this assault rifle was put in a different season with a different assault rifle meta, it would quickly fall to the bottom. I just think the assault rifle selection in Chapter 5 Season 2 was so weak that people didn't really have a choice but to pick the Warforged AR. But I mean, think about it. I just think, for example, Chapter 4 Season 1, if you put the Warforged assault rifle in Chapter 4 Season 1, I think it would struggle to go to the bottom of the list. I would rather take the Twin Mag, the Red Eye, even the Scar from that season, which I think was even pretty bad. Look, it's got good damage, good magazine, good fire rate. It's just that recoil is honestly insane. Remember, forget about attachments. We're talking about the base weapon here. It just wasn't for me. I understand why some people might be upset because it can be good in the right hands, but not for me. So here it is on the list of some of the worst ARs ever. Next, let's talk about the Havoc Suppress Assault Rifle introduced in Chapter 4 Season 2, I believe. And honestly, it's not entirely this weapon's fault. What is this weapon's fault is the damage. The damage is atrocious on this gun. But I don't know that really any assault rifle in Chapter 4 Season 2 would have thrived, specifically due to the kinetic blade. People weren't taking long-range gunfights in that season because you could just close the gap so fast on somebody with 3 kinetic blades into the air. Minus the overclocked pulse rifle, but that is literally probably a top 5 assault rifle ever, so forget about that. The one thing I will say is this weapon has the handling going for it. It's got a great fire rate, it's suppressed, which is of course always an advantage, and pretty low recoil and decent bloom, so it's got good handling all around. It's just, man, it is weak. And even if you look forward to Chapter 4 Season 3, which this weapon was featured in, I think it's outclassed by the Flapjack rifle and the MK Alpha assault rifle. Now you can argue about the Flapjack rifle in the comments below. That's a whole different story, but I think that the Flapjack and MK Alpha were better than the Havoc. I just think it doesn't do anything particularly great. It's just very average, and the damage is very, very bad. I believe it was like 21 in the common variant through 25 with the legendary variant, if that makes sense, which of course, I mean, think about it. Think about a Scar, right? 35, 36 damage. You can see, I mean, 10 less damage per shot is pretty tough. This is a very personal pick because I know most of the community doesn't feel this way about the Havoc assault rifle, so I expect some hate comments down below, so don't worry, I can take it, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. And previously, I mentioned how weak the assault rifle selection was in Chapter 5 Season 2, and here we have another weapon from that season. That's the tactical assault rifle. And I am specifically talking about the Chapter 5 Season 2 version, definitely not the Chapter 4 Season 1 version. That was one of the best ARs I think we've seen in a while, and not the Chapter 1 version of this weapon. And honestly, pre-buff, this may be the worst AR ever. I know it did get buffed, but pre-buff, I think the DPS on the common version was like 133, which is just awful. I mean, I can't even explain how bad that is. To put it into perspective, the Warforged common variant had a DPS of I think 172 to 173, which is 40 more damage, which is just insane. It's just not good. I don't know what else to say. It's just kind of like the Havoc. Like, it doesn't do anything great. It's just painfully mid. It's just a bad assault rifle. If you want a fast firing gun with decent damage, just use the Harbinger SMG this season. I always see this thing being left on the ground, or I did in Chapter 5 Season 2, and there's no surprise for that. It is really, really bad, and people just didn't take it. Nobody liked it. While yes, I have ripped on it, I think it has 2 things going for it. One is the tight spread, right? Either hip fire or aim down sights. You know where your shots are going, right? You're not going to get this crazy bloom like we saw with the makeshift. And also, this weapon uses light bullets, which is key a lot of the times because sometimes medium bullets can be hard to find, especially in that early game. I just think this weapon lacks in a lot of areas, and I know there are some people that like it, but not for me. Alright, that was kind of a controversial video, but let me know in the comments section below what you think about my list for some of Fortnite's worst ARs of all time. Did I miss any? Are there any that you think shouldn't have been on this list? Be sure to let me know because I do like interacting with you guys. If you went on to enjoy this video, be sure to like and of course hit that subscribe button. It helps me a ton, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.